Okay, so we are in the middle of a discussion in the first chapter of Ben Torah for Life, where Rav Lupiansky has taught us that all of Bnei Israel was composed of this thing called the Kahal, and in a Kahal, each tribe had their own individuality. At the same time, there was Shevet Levi, which was the center, and Shevet Levi represents the idea of total commitment to Torah and mitzvos. And he continued and said that just like that is true for Klal Yisrael, it's also true to us in our individual lives. There's some times in our life, each stage of our life is different, and for many of us, there's a stage in our life where we focus more on Torah, whether it's our time in school, time in Yeshiva afterwards. And that is the center of our life, but we have different stages in our life, and they're all important. So he says the parallel to this continues on page 8, can be found with the Mishkan. It consists of three concentric circles, the Chatzar, the Heichal, and the Kodesh Kodashim. The Chatzar of the courtyard, or the courtyard around the Mishkan, took in outside material, fat, blood, and converted into korbanos. The Heichal took more refined materials, incense, olive oil, and used them for the service. No divine service occurred in the Kodesh Kodashim. What was then its purpose, right? So the three circles, and in the middle one is Kodesh Kodashim, where there was no service. Answer is, why was there no service there? Because the Kodesh Kodashim was the focal point for all divine service that was performed in the temple. It had the luchos, the fire of Sinai at its core. Had it hosted a specific form of worship activity, its mission paradoxically would have been diminished. It had one sole purpose, to be the paradigm of the spiritual pristine. This is the purpose of those years we spend as Shevet Levi. We lay a stratum of pristine spirituality at our core. We will always look back at those years as the very root of our being and as the promise of our future. We carry those years with us as the lamp that lights our path in the present. As long as the windows of the lamp are free of grime, and as long as its flame is kept burning, it will illuminate the darkest of nights. This process is exactly what happened to Klal Yisrael in the desert. Everyone was Shevet Levi for the 40 years in the desert. The members of that generation did not engage in any meaningful economic activity, and they subsisted on the manna. They engaged intensively in Torah study. When this era came to a close, the vast majority of Israel settled the land, engaged in normal material pursuit, while the small tribe of Levi continued the unnatural mode of existence. Though the rest of Israel moves on to the next phase, those 40 years are the soul of all of Israel. We must never repudiate the Shevet Levi years, nor, on the other hand, feel that by laying the next stratum we have betrayed those years. The fire and determination, even the unrealized aspirations that forged those years of Shevet Levi, transform us. As long as the next stratum is squarely aligned with the Shevet Levi stratum, we are not repudiating the Shevet Levi within us, but rather realizing its manifestation in the next phase of life. Thus, the Yeshiva experience does not, nor is meant to prepare us in the practical sense for the next phase of life. Rather, the values communicated in the Yeshiva phrase are primary. A foundation of a building is not designed to look like the building architecturally, is there to be a bedrock to build on it. So that's what he says about these time in yeshiva, and time that we're focused more on learning, even if it's not the focus today. And then he closes this chapter that he heard the following insight, that when the Shvatim all put their staffs, only the staff of Aaron had flowers on it. But the pasuk tells us that Moshe took all the staffs, and each person took his staff back. So the question is, why did everyone take their staff back? Why did they take it back? They didn't have flowers on it. They should have just thrown it out. The answer is that these staffs represented a sincere aspiration of each of the leaders, that someday they would become the spiritual leader of Klal Yisrael. When a person has an aspiration like that, even if it's not fulfilled exactly as he anticipated, he needs to remember it always. So to summarize, just as Klal Yisrael was comprised of Shvatim with different roles, so too a person's lifetime contains different periods with different emphasis. Klal Yisrael as a whole experienced the Shevet Levi period in the desert, so too each and every individual is meant to experience a period of living the life of Shevet Levi. That period of life is the real him, no less, and perhaps more so than the strata that will follow. That's the end of this first chapter. Everyone have a great Shabbos. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Rowie. Shabbat Shalom.